This is FX Medicine. I'm Andrew Whitfield Cook, and I'm here with Bec Gill, my colleague. We're at the end of day one. We've just listened to Carrie Jones. Oh my goodness, there's a few take-home messages there, isn't there?
Yeah,
and some of them really simple, actually. One of the biggest ones for me was a reiteration of a very common deficiency in our society, and that is iron deficiency, and that the oxidative enzymes are iron deficient. So we always think about complex things, you know, the new best thing. But if we go right back to simplicity, 8% of women are iron deficient, minimum.
Yeah.
So how about we look at that first? Because we know. So if it's a woman, certainly, look at that. Keep that in the back of your mind. Just make sure that that's not an issue before moving on to more complex treatments.
Yeah.
Tell yourself, what were some of the take-home messages for you?
Well, for me, I think that when I was learning about estrogen, back in my college experience,
It was spelled with an E, with an O. Sorry.
Yeah, probably. But I either didn't commit it to memory or it wasn't taught to me this way. Actually, and it was you many years later that taught me that there were, 2, 4, and 16 series estrogens, and that they in and of themselves have different effects on your health. And so I guess what her sessions have helped to crystallize for me is what that means, how to interpret that from a Dutch test. And also, she teaches, a major part of her session was to teach phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and phase 2.5, detoxification. And so now, thank you to her having such a visual way of putting it.
It's all happening in a bath.
It's all happening in a bath. Like, why didn't we think of that before?
Yeah.
So yeah, whether or not you've got the water, the bathtub itself, the drain, etc., will determine where your blockage is. And what she teaches was, we learn our detox phases in 1, 2, 3, and we'll often treat them in 3, 2, 1. So of course she illustrated perfectly in her cases in the
Yeah. That drove home a point that was made to me years ago by Dr. Mick Lyon. And that was, with regards to detoxification, he said, and he stressed the point, in all cases, we must keep the bowels moving. And I'll always remember this slide with who we lovingly termed Nurse Love. And it was a nurse pulling on a really thick glove with a hose pipe and a funnel on the ground. Now, I'm not saying that's the way to do things.
Don't do this at home, ladies and gentlemen.
But I remembered the slide. But the whole thing was, in all cases, we've got to keep the bowels moving. Yes. And again, I'll always remember a brilliant article written by Petra Hunter talking about how even good bacteria, even our probiotics, metabolize things into bad metabolites. It's just that they take longer. So if you're taking a lot of probiotics, but you've still got constipation, you haven't outrun the enemy. You must keep your bowels moving.
Yeah,
so
and
really simple
talking
things.
about that a lot when she was covering off the estrobolome, which she said was
her favourite word.
Love to say. And what was it's a beta-glucuronidase that recycles into the system. So obviously, yes, it becomes really. We can see therefore why it's so important to make sure that gut health comes first. Like you can't treat, there's no point in treating estrogen up the chain if you're not helping it down the chain. You've got to actually help it recycle and move out of the body. And if it doesn't, you can't do that.
Who'd have thunk that?
Beg your pardon?
I said, who'd have thunk?
Oh.
Who'd have thunk that? And going back again to simple things, her message about the foods that can activate the quinone reductase, your caraway, your fennel, your dill, even carrots with their high fiber content.
Raw carrots.
These really, sorry?
Raw carrots. Had to be raw carrots,
yes.
remember? Yeah.
And fennel. We often overlook them, or we pigeonhole them for certain actions, and we forget where they come from. We so often do this with so many things. Curcumin, you know, when she was talking about curcumin and resveratrol, and the work that, or the lecture that Jeffrey Bland was giving. And so often do we forget that curcumin in the olden days, if you look up Mrs. Grieve and Hoffman and people like that, it was a cholagogue.
Yes.
It was used as a cholagogue.
And how
and
often
indeed,
do you hear cholagogue used in terminology?
we've forgotten them.
Yeah, I can think of any number of people that I've said the word cholagogue in front of, and they're like, the what now?
Yeah.
So it's not.
So, you know, again, like with curcumin, we compartmentalize it. We've compartmentalized it to being an aid for cancer treatment and inflammation. And it's like, it's a whole lot more than that. Go back to the old ways. Remember where we came from.
This can sometimes be part of the problem, don't you think, when we focus too much on where the science is going, and the science is often not dictated by traditional use, but by what they're seeing as a potential commercial placement for a product. Oftentimes, I'll spend money on research if there's going to be a commercial value that comes out of it.
Yep.
And so we do end up getting kind of trapped with these commercial aspects, because now everyone thinks that curcumin is synonymous with inflammation, and that's kind of all it can be used for, whereas it's got multifactorial uses.
Yep, absolutely. Where's Dennis Stewart and Justin Sinclair when you need them?
Yeah, I think they'd have a thing to say about that.
But I mean, you know, Dennis saved my mind with this, with regards to how we look at you know, the new uses of herbs and the evidence where the science leads us, without forgetting where our rich history lies.
Yeah, I think Amy Spilton put that perfectly in a podcast you did with her, where she said science doesn't dictate what is so, it seeks to explain what is so, something along those lines.
Yes,
but I was like,
that's very true.
It is, and we forget it.
It's a beautiful sentence.
We do forget it.
And I also love Dennis's sentence that a glass of brilliant red wine, what is it, Grange Hermitage, is not determined by how much resveratrol is in it. so says something about Dennis's appreciation for a good red wine, but and also for resveratrol. But interestingly, you know, it may be that resveratrol is not working on a cellular thing in our throughout our body, but indeed might be working from the gut. And as you said earlier, you know, who'd have known the gut is the primary thing that we need to concentrate on so many diseases.
Yeah, that Hippocrates guy, I think he was onto something.
Absolutely. So I can't wait for the next speakers to roll up. I think it's Bill Walsh tomorrow, isn't it?
Let me have a look at the program. Yes, so Sunday the 7th of June, Dr. William Walsh talking nutrient therapy for mental disorders. I mean, most people won't need an introduction to who Bill Walsh is.
No.
And they'll be as excited as we are to make sure that they're front and center to listen to what he's got to say, because it is an opportunity that we haven't had before, at least amongst modalities that aren't general practice.
That's right. That's exactly right. Bill's wisdom has only been available to GPs and maybe those allied health professionals that were working in a GP clinic.
Yeah, and I can't wait.
So this is really going to be an expose.
His cases are going to be so interesting, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite aspect to the BioCeuticals Symposium is learning the plenary in kind of more the abstract in the science and the what to do and the how to do it, and then seeing it applied real world into.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's, I think, why it helps to kind of cement it in your mind. Yeah,
it's wonderful to have a concept, but you can't treat a concept. You need a patient, and you need a treatment paradigm. And indeed, you know, the heritage or the legacy that Carl Pfeiffer left, and Bill Walsh has taken over the lead from. And I mean, Bill is not a spring chicken himself. So we're talking about decades of treatment here, thousands and thousands of patients that they've helped. And these were patients that were often tossed out or left behind by the the orthodox medical paradigm. So it really is going to speak volumes as to how micronutrients and nutrients can treat, you know, pig-headed mood disorders, which were often just categorized and left as poorly treated.
Yeah, well, realistically, what are there? 3, 4, 5 therapies tops that they could try for people with mood disorders before they're like, oh, sorry, we don't have anything that can help you. So
that's right.
this is where I think Bill's work has been so important, is there's underlying nutrient issues that people have that might be that first layer of the onion that's been forgotten to be peeled back.
That's right. So, of course, everybody, if you haven't got your ticket, you can get your ticket at bioceuticals.com.au. Hover over the education tab and symposiums will come up. You can register there because we've got Datis Carizian, we've got Amanda, we've got Lara Bryden coming up, and also presentations by Mark and Amy to come up as well. So we look forward to meeting with you, albeit virtual. Wish we could be there in person, but hey, we make the best. What is it? We have lemons, we make lemonade. Yes.
Happy pandemic to you all.
Thanks so much for joining us today. This is FX Medicine. I'm Andrew Whitfield Cook, and that's Bec Guild.
Bye, everyone.